Okay, guys, hello. This is Tatiana Sales-Fair, and here we are discussing coaching through uncertainty, your client toolkit for turbulent times. Why uncertainty and why coaching? And probably I don't need to explain why uncertainty. We all of us experienced it in the past few years, a tremendous increase in the level of uncertainty, probably in all areas of life, from business to personal. As we go forward, it probably becomes the norm. So we cannot anymore plan anything, business, career, anything, 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, as we used to do it before. So we have to become more agile, more flexible. That's the norm. Uncertainty becomes the norm. That's one reason. But the second reason is also our typical reaction to uncertainty as humans is not always helpful in a way. We tend to look at it and procrastinate, right? Lack of clarity often results in the lack of actions. And that's one of the reasons why we're discussing it here. Also because often clients come to a coach with an underlying uncertainty-related topic when they cannot, basically they have something, they have lack of clarity and they don't know what to do with it, and hence they don't do anything. And coaching here is a unique tool, basically, when there is no right answer, to find an answer for yourself. My name is Tatiana Sales-Fair. I am an executive and business coach. I'm an ACC more than halfway towards PCC. I am an ex-McKinsey project manager. I used to manage consulting projects in the Middle East, including large corporate and government transformations back in my corporate career before I transitioned to running a coaching practice. And my interest to this topic is a little bit geographically driven, because I was born and grew up in Russia in the time of transition from Soviet Union to market economy. Hence, we had a lot of uncertainty to handle at the personal level. And later, I worked for 11 years in the Middle East and South Asia, where also traditional ways of planning do not work. Basically, someone told me, if you want to be planning in this environment, it's not your plan A and B which have to be good. It's your plans X, Y, and Z. So that's how the interest in the topic evolved, and that's where I collected some of my tools, which I'm hoping to share today. A little bit about how we interact today. The session is a recording, so I will not be reacting to your questions in the video. However, hopefully I'm present at this moment. The video is playing. I'm present in the session chat and also my conference profile. So if you have any questions or comments, please post there and I'll respond. Also, if you have an interest in this topic and you want to discuss it a bit more, you can go on my website, shiftologist.com, and schedule time with me for a Zoom call, and we discuss it in person. Okay, so we can move into the topic now, and I would encourage us to start thinking about your own uncertainty, basically picking a situation which causes some doubt at this very moment. So we basically have something practical to work with. Basically, when I say uncertainty, I mean some sort of unknown, lack of information, something which is a bottleneck, real or imaginary, something which has substantial influence on your life, requires multiple moves to clarify. Yeah, so if you can just ask, I don't know what this person thinks about me. If you can ask and clarify quickly, it's not an uncertainty, it's a question to be asked. But generally, when we talk about uncertainty, it's something which is quite hard to clarify. So it often causes discomfort, and it entails risks and has some sort of a price tag. Sometimes you can calculate it, sometimes it's just intuitive. but basically it's something important with the price tag, and sometimes clients come to you because there is a bigger price tag for the uncertainty. Generally, when we try to formulate uncertainty, we say, okay, so I don't know X, that's why I cannot do Y. That's a typical way how we can say, oh, this is an uncertainty. So think about your own uncertainty, which you will work on during the session. Oh, think about your client's uncertainty. And I'm sure you had clients like the 3 examples I put here. And let's talk about them a little bit because we're going to use these examples later. So let's say there is Alex. Alex doesn't know what he wants from his career, so he cannot make his next move. Is it an uncertainty? Yes, it is. Zoe is an entrepreneur, and she's afraid to take investors' money because she doesn't know how her business will behave in the next, let's say, 6 months. She doesn't know if she's going to become a successful entrepreneur or not. And since she's afraid to take money in investments, she cannot secure funds to grow her business. Oops. Yeah, that also sounds like an uncertainty. And the third example here is you and me and all of us in the past 2 years. Sarah, who cannot plan her vacation because she doesn't know when she's going to have the next lockdown. Okay, boom. This is also an uncertainty. And I think many of us faced this kind of uncertainty in the past 2 years. So we're going to work with those examples, and maybe you have some other interesting examples, which I would request you to share also in the chat. And maybe also some stories how you handled them. I think the overall discussion will benefit from your experience. Okay. And then probably as a coach, you know what a good result might look like if you deal with an uncertainty, but let's talk about it. Generally, when you have a client with uncertainty coming to you, you can see, okay, so confusion as one of the general feeling, fear, feeling overwhelmed, feeling bottleneck, and generally procrastinating. I know that I need to do something about this thing, but I don't know what I'm going to do, what I need to do, and hence I'm not doing anything. And you probably know that, okay, so you successfully handled this uncertainty, you help client to overcome this uncertainty if there is a sign of clarity, courage, curiosity, excitement, client feeling debottlenecked and feeling urge to act. And this is some sort of a journey from two. And as a coach, you can do it in many different ways, right? You can be a life coach who focuses only on working with emotions and feelings and some state of being. And here this is like my question, my challenge. You as a coach, basically, how deep into the content are you willing to go here? Because, okay, we can work with only emotions, but we can also work a little bit with the content, with the nature of uncertainty that client brought. And that could also result in clarity and maybe much, much bigger feeling of clarity because you actually discussed the content, you discussed the strategy. And you practically help client to solve the problem directly. So today's instruments are more for the coaches who are willing to go a little bit into the content, not just feelings. Feelings, I'm sure you're pretty aware how to deal with it. But today we will talk about how to deal with content, which is related to uncertainty. And there will be sort of three parts to that. We'll talk about types of uncertainty so you can build this awareness into your coaching contract at the very beginning, understanding, okay, so what is the type of uncertainty I'm dealing with here? The second part will be a little bit about coaching strategies. Okay, so how can I approach, what is my coaching toolkit? How can I approach this uncertainty to create clarity for the client? And the third block will be about cognitive biases. Basically, this is important to observe, especially when the client starts moving towards actions. Sometimes those actions do not really work because we did not incorporate those cognitive biases into the picture. So it's a good idea to watch for those things, and we'll discuss more about what things to watch for. Okay, so that's basically what that's the composition of client uncertainty toolkit we're going to discuss today. And we'll start with the types of uncertainty. And obviously, like when it comes to types of anything, any classification, there could be many, right? For our purposes, I would propose to ask ourselves or the question, to what extent this uncertainty is in your control. And by this extent of control, I would say there are three major types of uncertainty. So on a scale from 1 to 10, and let's say towards the 10 side of it, 7, 8, 9, 10, something which I control, I shape the future, but I don't know how I want to do that, is basically the inner uncertainty. It's my uncertainty. I don't know how to approach it. I don't know what I want. On the other side, there are situations when I don't control anything, and I can only adapt. And that's the outer uncertainty. And then there is something in between, which I call here an interdependent, basically playing chess with the reality. Some parts I control and some parts I do not. Like in any negotiation, I control my homework, I control my behavior, but I do not control how the other person will take it. So if we look at our client examples, they perfectly fit into this, into those three types. So Alex, with his career uncertainty about career move, is more of an inner uncertainty type because he doesn't know what he wants. Right? It's up to him to decide what he wants. On the other side, we have Sarah, who wants to plan her vacation. She knows what she wants, but she doesn't know how the external environment will evolve in the next few months. So she has to adapt, and this is an outer uncertainty. And then in the middle, we have Zoe, which is an entrepreneurship case where, so she controls part of the picture. She controls her own actions. She controls what she can do for the situation to become better. However, there are clients, there are investors, there are employees, there are many other moving parts that will influence the final result at the end. So these are three types, and it's good to understand at the type of contract, at the time of contracting, which type you're dealing with. Why so? Well, as you know, when we contract in our control zone. So for Alex, it would be his decision, his wanting what he wants. But for someone like Sarah, she would need to be very conscious what she controls here and what she doesn't. And for someone like Zoe, she needs to be extremely conscious what she controls and what she doesn't, because it's so interdependent between her and all the different other stakeholders involved in the situation. So when we contract about uncertainty, we contract in the control zone and we try to probably reformulate it somehow, right? So I don't know X, that's why I cannot Y, becomes something like, okay, so what can I do in order to Y? Or Y streak, basically. Okay, so I don't know X, but okay, what can I do to do what I want to do? Obviously, if it's smart, it's even better. Yeah, if I control my actions and they're somehow like measurable, achievable, time bound, and so on, that's even better. But we keep in mind that for different types of uncertainty, it would be a very kind of different solution space between shaping and adapting. Okay, so that was about the types of uncertainty. And my question to you here would be, do you observe the same types, or do you maybe segment uncertainty somehow in a different way? Do you find this content helpful? Do you see how it can be used? Please share in the chat. And we move here to the topic of coaching strategies. So basically, once you have a contract, now you start unpacking clients' uncertainty, and you try to help them build clarity. What logical constructions can you use to basically help clients create clarity for themselves. And I here list 5 strategies. Obviously, it's not an exhaustive list. There could be more. Time to time, I add or I take out a few strategies, depending on how the practice goes. Maybe you know more, so feel free to share in the chat. But these are the 5 we're going to discuss today. And these are basically taking stock of knowns, running experiments, doing things in iterations, planning in scenarios, and the favorite one of everyone is no regret moves. We're just going to discuss them one by one. And the first one is about knowns, basically taking stock of knowns. I think I picked this one back in the Middle East when we were doing some sort of a market entry strategy or business case. And we figured out that, we don't have many of the traditional types of information you would need for traditional model on market entry. But still, we had something. So like basically the logic was, if we don't know this and we don't know that and we don't know everything else, so we cannot build a model. Okay, let's just list what we know. And let's start from what we know. Because it's a little bit like an equation, right? X plus Y equals Z. And if we don't know X, but we know Y, we might figure out what we want out of it. So a good question here would be to ask, okay, so if you don't know X, what might you already know? What is important? And what can inform the further discussion about this topic? For example, our friend Alex, who doesn't know what he wants from his next career move. If you ask him directly, okay, Alex, so what do you want? He'd probably say, I don't know, that's why I'm here. But if you ask him, okay, Alex, so what do you know? Maybe you know what you don't want. Like, sure, I know what I don't want, I can tell you. And here you are, you started already building some clarity, at least about something which the client knows. And then probably you can take what he knows, what he doesn't want, and then build on that. Okay, so now let's talk what you want, given that we know that you don't want this. So that's about taking stock of knowns. If this resonates, if you use that with your clients, if you see how you can potentially use it even better, please write in the chat. It would benefit the overall discussion. And we go to the next one, which is about experiments, running in experiments. This thing comes from, I would say entrepreneurs, right? When we don't know how the market behaves, when we don't know how the system works, when we don't know, and basically we don't know anything, okay, let's just try. Let's try and see. Let's see the feedback, how the situation evolves if I start trying doing this or doing that. So it comes from the entrepreneurs, and it comes from the notion that failing is good. Fail fast, fail often. Basically, if I try something and I see that it doesn't work, it's an equally good result as if I try something and it works, right? Because I just found out that something doesn't work. Wow, I got this amazing piece of information. Let's say I live and I think that my dream work is to become a teacher. And I might think about it for years, or a teacher or a business person or whatever. But then I go and I try and I realize that no, I don't feel like this is my dream job. Wonderful. You just saved yourself so many years of dreaming. Experiments is something which basically does not require a big commitment. So we don't say here okay, dear client, how committed are you to making this work? Like, no, like just try, see if it works, or maybe it doesn't, see what you feel, observe what changes, and then let's discuss. So it's like an easy move into unknown waters, which does not require much of a commitment, really, and hence it's easy. And then if you see that an experiment fails, so the hypothesis is disproved. I thought I wanted something, but actually I don't want it. Or I thought something gonna work this way and it actually doesn't. You can always pivot. And the notion of pivot also comes from entrepreneurship, actually from the Lean Startup methodology. And I think Eric Ries even has like a list of 10 different pivots companies, startups can make. But honestly, it's much broader than that. So let's say if the same client, Alex, runs an experiment about what he thinks he wants for his career, and then if he figures out that, oh no, this job is not for me, he has a long list of other things to try, right? So it's like almost like an endless menu of things, trying here and there, and finally figuring out something that works. So if you like experiments, if you use this, let us know in the chat. Let's discuss. Would be interesting to hear stories from the field. And we go to the next one. And the third strategy is about iterations. Iterations come to us from the world of software development, actually. And then startups picking up also on this method. Basically, there was something called iterative development, which later transformed into Scrum and Agile and all these modern methodologies to organize your work in an unstructured environment or somewhat unstructured. And iterations are about basically delaying some unknowns until a little later. So you're basically saying, okay, fine, I have a difficult project where I don't know this and I don't know that, but I know that my point B is here. So now I'm here, my point B is here. And to point B, it's pretty clear for me what to do. And then my unknowns, let me keep track of them, but I will reevaluate them on point B. Ideally, your point B is something, it doesn't have to be perfect. So basically, the iterations as strategy helps you avoid this trap of perfection. But ideally, that's something that works, right? So with the classical MVP and entrepreneurial iterations model, point B has to be more like a bicycle, like this picture below, basically more like a bicycle, something that runs than just a piece of a bigger product. Something which runs and helps you understand, okay, what else needs to be built. So who can benefit out of our free clients, who can benefit from this strategy? Pretty much everyone, but maybe let's look at Zoe. She probably doesn't know how her business will look like in 3 years because she's a startup, but she probably has a pretty clear point B in mind, and she probably knows what she needs to do to achieve this point B. And that probably is also quite obvious to her that she needs to raise funds. And it's also pretty clear to her that, okay, so at point B, I can judge whether I am successful or not to raise more funds and so on. So it becomes, for her, basically, looking at her point B creates enough clarity to start moving, to start making first steps, and basically live a little bit behind this notion of, oh my God, it's so difficult, it's so scary, I'm afraid. No, okay, point B is clear, I know what to do, And when I reach point B, I will think about the next stage. Okay, so if you use this strategy, if you like it, if you have some good examples of situations where it could be beneficial, please share. And we move to the next one, which is scenarios, scenario planning, scenarios. And it comes to us from, corporate planning and risk management. And the idea here is that we as humans, we actually like certainty, and we like some expert to tell us how things will be. So we like forecasts. We like forecasts like, okay, tell me what the exchange rate will be. Tell me what stock market situation will look like. Tell me when the next lockdown will happen. Are we going to have fifth wave or not? And so on, right? So we very much like some certainty in the future, and we very much like to plan for this certainty. But when we do, we miss all other possible scenarios, and hence the probability that we miss out, given the overall uncertainty, we miss out and we are not prepared to something which is happening, probability is high. So when we use scenario planning, we say, okay, so let's see what are some ways the situation can evolve, and what will you do if this scenario materializes? So it's a little bit like trying to figure out, okay, so what are the different possible scenarios? What are the consequences? And what's your plan A, B, C, X, Y, Z for this particular scenario? And try and basically figure out, okay, also triggers. Yeah, what will tell you that this scenario materialized? Yeah, because sometimes it's not obvious. And that you need to actually activate a certain plan, and maybe some risk management measures, right? What will you do to prevent a certain bad scenario from happening, or what will you do to manage the consequences if a bad scenario happens? So the whole notion of scenarios works basically if then. This particular strategy helps also to release a lot of stress, especially without uncertainties. When there is something which does not depend on me, but my life is influenced by this. It basically helps to prepare for the full range of what can happen. And when I'm prepared, I feel like, oh, okay, so now we are business as usual, independent from what's going on. And basically, so speaking about uncertainty, let's test how it would work for Sarah from our example. Sarah, who wants to plan her vacation, but she doesn't know when the next lockdown are going to be. So she can have scenarios, right? She can say, okay, so my best case scenario is that I'm going on vacation, there is no lockdown, everything is all right. Then, okay, so what if lockdown happens? What do I do? Okay, I can move my vacation, I can do staycation, I can cancel my tickets, so I can move them to a different date. Or maybe I should move my vacation overall earlier, because earlier I'm pretty sure in like next week there will be no lockdown, otherwise they would announce. Okay, so she starts thinking already, instead of just sitting like, oh my God, there is this out uncertainty, I have no idea how to manage this. She starts planning for different scenarios, what is under her control. And probably she comes out of that session with the full sense of clarity that, okay, so I'm prepared for this scenario. The interesting trick with scenarios, you can do it the other way as well. So you could say, okay, so normally we say, think what are the ifs and plan your thens. But you can also say, okay, I know which of the thens I would prefer. And then you can plan your ifs. So basically what needs to be true for me to be able to do what I want to do. Some reverse engineering. And then say, okay, so is this if in place? Is this if in place? Basically, are we? Am I having here a situation which is like which tells me that yes, I'm ready to do what I want to do? That's a little bit of a reverse engineering on scenarios. Okay, so as usual, the question to you is, do you use this? How you use this? Do you like it? What are the different situations you envision this thing could be useful for? Please share in the chat, and we move on to the next strategy, the last but not the least, and everyone's favorite, is no regret moves. And again, it comes from somewhere in the corporate planning. At least that's how I know about it. No regret moves basically are cheap, quick, low risk, and hugely beneficial things you can do. So basically something where benefits are much higher than cost, and something which works pretty much under any scenario, either helps you to achieve overall objective under any scenario, or increases your overall fitness. Not necessarily physical fitness, maybe your fitness as a business, or your fitness as your attractiveness, let's say, as a specialist. So a good question to ask here is, what are some things you can do that will pay off in any case? And this is a hugely debottlenecking exercise when basically the client is swamped by uncertainty and doesn't know what to do because the situation can go anyway. But still, like, you can find still some things that are beneficial under any scenario and can be done now. So just reformulating the old wisdom. And if you don't know what to do nothing. No, if you don't know what to do no regret moves. And thinking of the client examples, I think for any of the clients we discuss, like Alex, Zoe, and Sarah, no regret moves is pretty much a no regret move strategy. Alex, let's say, could do some business networking or some overall managerial education program as a no regret move to increase his appeal to potential employers. Zoe can do some things to improve the probability of success of your business, and Sarah could do some things as well to increase her household preparedness to potential lockdowns, for example. So there is always something to do, even if you don't know what to do. So please share if you like it, if you can see how it can work with your clients, what are the situations which can especially benefit from this strategy. Please share in the chat. So these were the five strategies for dealing with uncertainty. And my question to you is, so what's your favorite? And in case your favorite is no regret moves, then what's your second favorite? And then maybe you see any other strategies for dealing with uncertainty and helping your clients to deal with uncertainty. Please also share with examples. I think we as a whole, the audience, will benefit from exchange of this type of expertise. Okay, so these were about strategies. And we move to the last topic of today's session about Client Uncertainty Toolkit, which is about cognitive biases and basically how you can help clients to maintain clear perspective. And you are probably familiar with the term. And yeah, I put this crazy diagram here to just show that there are many of them. But basically, cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from rationality and judgment, whatever perception, decision making, something which affects the decisions we make and the actions we take. The notion comes from behavioral economics, And if you want to learn more about this topic, feel free to take any books on behavioral economics, especially Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow, or Dan Ariely, Predictably Irrational. These are the two normally recommended to start with on cognitive biases. As you can see in this crazy diagram, there are plenty of them. There are plenty of ways in which our judgment is clouded, especially in the situation of uncertainty. But today we will talk specifically about three of them, which somehow overlay with uncertainty types. What to be aware of when dealing with clients with particular uncertainty types. So if you have someone like Alex, someone with the inner uncertainty, shape the future type of strategy, but not quite aware that it's shape the future, beware of status quo biases, which means we prefer to keep things as they are, and we prefer not to take control, even when the control is ours. And someone like Alex, who claims he doesn't know what he wants, may delay for years this decision because he's quite okay in his current situation. He earns enough money. He, let's say, works for a good company, and he's overall all right. And any career change would mean some sort of discomfort. And come on, none of us really likes discomfort. So it's not about being lazy. It's not about being not committed enough. It's just us as humans. We are prone to status quo biases, and that is something to watch for when you have a client with inner uncertainty. On the other side, when you have someone with outer uncertainty, the thing to watch for is overconfidence biases. So we generally tend to overestimate our chances of success. We tend to think that tend to feel that we control things that we do not control, like stock market, like probability to get sick during yet another pandemic, like anything, basically. This is something to watch for when you have a client without uncertainty. Okay, what can you really control, and are you really prepared? Have you really have your risk management procedures in place? And for someone with interdependent type of uncertainty, I would say this is confirmation biases to watch for. Basically, we tend to see what we expect to see. And this is something very common for entrepreneurs, especially the beginners. Basically, I look at the market and I think all of them want to buy my product. Not necessarily, right? So again, the judgment can be clouded, and hence, when I as a client start planning my next steps, I think that, okay, so I know what we are talking about, but in reality, I probably don't. So again, watch out for confirmation biases for those. And what actually we can do to help clients deal with these types of biases. And again, I'm here just talking from my own experience, and maybe you have something else, and I would encourage you to share maybe some other biases you faced and some other ways to deal with those. But what I can share from my experience with status quo biases, with people with inner uncertainty, it's important to focus on small steps to build momentum, and maybe to run experiments. So basically, try to create some flexibility in the status quo. Try to create some ways for them to try other things without necessarily committing to them, because committing will be very difficult, especially in the beginning. When it comes to overconfidence biases, probably helps to call the inner critic, like wear an inner critic hat. Okay, so what do you think can go wrong here? Or what do you think are the risks you have to manage here? And basically have that risk management plan. And for the confirmation biases in the interdependent uncertainty, it would help to have some clear objective criteria for decision making. Basically, how will you understand that this is the case? How will you really judge whether this is a success or failure? The hypothesis, proved or disproved. So basically trying to have some clear criteria to help to have a clear judgment. So again, if you know some other ways, if you feel like some other biases also can come into play when we deal with different types of uncertainty, please share in the chat. It's very interesting to hear what situations that you actually faced. As far as this session goes, we are pretty much done. So we covered 3 components in the client uncertainty toolkit. We talked about types of uncertainty and how to build awareness about them into your coaching contract. We spoke about coaching strategies, 5 of them, to enhance your toolkit when you work with client towards clarity. And we spoke about cognitive biases and things to watch for to help clients to maintain clear perspective and actually stick to their action plan. Here we are. I'm Tatiana Selskaya. Again, you can reach out to me either through the conference chat or you can schedule a Zoom call on my website, shopologies.com. Thank you very much for being here. And I look forward to interacting with all of you in the chat and actually discussing some situations, exchanging expertise, and hopefully discovering more ways to deal with uncertainty, because uncertainty is here to stay. Thank you.